What's up, guys? So we are in one of my favorite modern AMGs, the SLS AMG, the coupe version. We had the other day the most incredible opportunity to sit down with Hartmut, who was the founder of RennTech. Now, I consider Hartmut a dear family friend. You know, until recently, I didn't realize just how important he was because I literally grew up around RennTech and Hartmut. My father's warehouse, where he had his service facility, was actually down the street from RennTech, where they were for about 20 years.
John-John's driving a Lamborghini Diablo. Oh, Christ.
So as a young guy and as a kid, while I was washing cars or sweeping floors, I'd run outside when I'd hear these big V8s fly down the road. And Hartmut, or one of his engineers, would be testing, I'll never forget, I remember seeing a yellow SL with a big V8 6-liter engine. And I saw all these crazy cars. And it's funny because I was around like F40s and Countachs, yet I was running outside to see these Mercedes. And my dad used to say, like, why are you going outside? I think at that moment I fell in love with these early AMG cars, especially the RennTech cars, and that's probably what has inspired me to pursue these cars today. So about 2 years ago, we started to chase pre-merger AMG cars, and it was really a gut feeling of the future of that market. And also, I think the pre-merger AMG cars are so special because every time someone sees them, and truly a passionate car guy understands the impact that those cars had on that period. I mean, these were the first luxury cars to hit 200 miles per hour. And the media fell in love with them. I fell in love with them. I know so many collectors that love them today. And in probably 4 or 5 years, they've gone to insane prices. And there's not that many in the world. We had the opportunity, I'm sure you guys remember, we owned one of the original prototype AMG Hammer cars. It was a black car. About, I don't know, probably a year after owning that car, we also owned the very famous silver AMG Hammer, the press car. It was another Car and Driver magazine cover car. And recently, we had the opportunity to purchase probably one of the nicest, well-documented 560 SEC AMG 6-liter examples that I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of cars at auctions. I've inspected many examples. This car was one owner. It was original paint, original interior, and documented from day one, services and everything. The coolest part about the other day was we arrived with the black SEC, and immediately one of Hartmut's original detailers remembers the car when it was new. He says, whatever he said, I forget actually now, and remarkably, he said, I remember this car. I remember when I detailed it for AMG Central. Now, what makes Hartmut's story so interesting is he's obviously famous because of his RennTech fame. He was on the cover of magazines, etc. But Hartmut actually started as one of the first mechanics with AMG and as one of the first mechanics for AMG North America. So he built in his prime in the mid-'80s, he built the most iconic cars of our time. Ironically, we'll learn, and you'll hear today, some stories about the cars that we owned. And just an amazing day. Again, thank you to Hartmut and his incredible team. It's really an honor to learn about the history of pre-merger AMG cars and the history of the AMG Hammer.
Yeah, I started working at AMG as a teenager. After school, that was in the late 70s, 77, 78, something like that, as an apprentice. And that was in Affalterbach, Germany, where I actually was born and grew up. So that's how I knew AMG and the owner from AMG, Hans van Aufrecht. And we knew each other a little bit better than average because I was in the same sports shooting club, a local sports shooting club. And so anyway, so that's how that happened. I was not even planning on to learn car mechanic and be a car mechanic. I wanted to actually be a pilot, fighter pilot, you know. And but anyways, when he kind of heard that I'm almost ready with school or whatever, then he said, well, you have to come to me, you know. And so then I did a summer vacation, 6 weeks, whatever. And also planned was only 2-3 weeks, you know, just to check it out. And so I worked there then for the whole 6-7 weeks, whatever the summer vacation was, every day. I liked it. So it was pretty cool. It's already some pretty cool stuff there. And 450 SLC with a 6.9 liter engine, 5-speed manual transmission with roll cage, and we're just finishing that car there. That was awesome. With mechanical fuel injection system. We put the mechanical fuel injection system in there from the 6.3 liter, so not the K-Jetronic, you know, and whatever. So it was quite a special car, and couldn't keep the clutch in one piece, you know, for anything. So that car was eating clutches. But so yeah, that was awesome, and that was actually in the old, before Waldebach, in that little town and that old mill in Burgstall. So so I actually worked at that place too. And then when I started my first year's only school anyway, that was the time when AMG was building their first facility in Waldebach. And then in my second year apprenticeship was already finished, and when I started working there. And then to the States, I mean, at that time we were like 5 employees. So 2 apprentice guys, including me. So anyway, and to the States, I was sent in '86. I think fall of '86. And it was before that I was once or twice in the States, in Chicago, you know, doing some work, you know, actually restoring or changing completely around one of those Hammers that were already gray market there, that dark colored ones. And it was only like a 5.2 or 5.4 liter 4-valve engine in there with those Recaro seats and all the interior done. It was a nice car. And so we upgraded to 6 liter, and we had a few upgrades on the suspension and the subframe and reinforcements and whatever, and improvements on the firewall and steering and everything. So that was all upgraded because there was a test coming up with Car and Driver. So I was there for I think 3 weeks or so and did all that work, and then they kind of said, we want you here. So, yeah, so anyway, so they lobbied very hard that they needed somebody like me, and so they got a visa, and I think a year or so later I came to the States.
And I always laugh because I think there's a miscommunication in the public of the hammer and what is a hammer. So I have to ask you, a guy that's built a few, what is the hammer?
Actually, the press came up with that name, that nickname, so to speak. I mean, we wanted to build a 4-door sedan, you know, high-performance 4-door sedan that can do 300 kilometers. So that was the goal. You know, and the 124 chassis at that time, that was the first real aerodynamic car with wind tunnel and everything from Mercedes. So it had, for that time, really good aerodynamics. And then of course we needed a motor too, you know, because a 6-cylinder obviously wouldn't do it. And because that was the biggest motor, was a 300 or 3.2 liter engine. And so we had the 4-valve cylinder heads developed for the V8, and you know, low production, whatever. And so we decided that is the motor that has to go into that car. So yeah, I mean, I was actually within that crew to put that in. And yeah, the first car that was actually that car that gray market car that ended up in Chicago in the States. That Richard Buxbaum bought that one. That was the first Hammer.
Wow.
That we built. So yeah, so it was still very early stuff on it. That's why it had to be upgraded a little bit later on. And so yeah, we were. That was a lot of work. Not only to build that car, to get that motor in and whatever, and kind of develop it, but also getting to 300 miles an hour. That was a little bit more difficult than we thought, and it was not possible with just with the motor. So it needed a lot more aerodynamics, and we did that finally. So it took us a long time. So we didn't do it with that car. But then when the 6-liter came out, and so that silver car in the shop that we were restoring for a client, that you know also, that was that car. And I built that car too, in Germany. That was one of the last cars I guess I built before I went to the States. And that ended up here in the States too. And I didn't know, I mean, most of them were silver, I guess. And so when I saw the car a little bit more, and then when I saw it underneath, where most of them were gone now, but some of them were still there, and the ones were gone, there were the holes there for all these aluminum panels that we put in. So we covered everything underneath, made basically almost like a flat bottom. I mean, not quite, but basically, I mean, getting everything aerodynamically under the car, filling everything in between the suspension and everything, and that made a nice difference. And removed the right side mirror because that was optional. And damn it.
You're a CEO. part of the business.
And so yeah, we had we changed gear ratios up and down, and then we changed transmissions around. There was quite a difference in power consumptions in the automatic transmissions and torque converter in those days, so we had we had a car that we knew was exceptionally fast, a regular 500 SEL, and so we knew it had a good transmission, so we took that transmission out of that one and put it in there, and that made a little bit of difference, a few horsepower. And then we made a special 6-liter, where we kind of cleaning up a little bit more the porting and massaged it a little bit. That made maybe another, not even 10 horsepower. But just tried everything. We couldn't get to 300 miles an hour. So we finally, Erhard Melcher, the M from AMG, so he was the engineer that actually developed those 4-valve heads. And the Porsche 928, they came out just with a 928S that had, it was like 15 kilometers or maybe even 20 kilometers faster than the previous one with the same horsepower. So they did a lot of aero work, including closing off the radiator. So they had an automatic shuttle system, which actually they have now these days again, a lot of cars.
Yeah.
So, but in those days, Porsche, I think, was the only one. So we tried that on the Hammer. So, but not automatic. We had a button inside.
Wow.
So actually, I was driving it on the Autobahn, I had an engineer next to us we had a fifth wheel, that attachment fifth wheel thing, not the one in the back, because the high speed is not good, because it kind of doesn't stay to the ground, so it's not accurate anymore. So we had an adapter for the front wheel. That was kind of the next generation before GPS. So wired in, and so it was. Then that's when we did easy the 300. Wow. So we got like to 290 some or whatever, with the radiator open, closed it. It was like an afterburner coming in. So I mean, it was really giving another shoot to 303, 304. I think that was about it, or so 305 maybe. I don't know. So yep, that was it.
Wow. What's your favorite music to listen to while driving?
I don't have a radio on when I'm driving. So none.